कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भो मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Karmanye vadhikaraste. Te. Te means for you. For you who, one whose mind is easily disturbed, one whose mind is sullied from within with internal impurities. And like I said, we have to figure out, or we have to, take the guidance of someone who we trust. For that kind of a person, for that te, adhikara, your eligibility, your prerogative, your privilege, your claim, your right is for what? Eva karmani, only for work. The eligibility is only for karma yoga, because only that karma yoga will bring about that transformation to the mind and intellect, which then will help fine-tuning the mind and intellect and preparing the mind and intellect for jnana and bhakti. Without that, if we go and pursue jnana and bhakti, it will not be efficient. It will not be productive. It will not happen effectively. Oftentimes we find we are sitting in front of God in the temple, or we are in a church in the altar, and our minds are roaming around here and there, right? It's not going to be efficient. When you train your mind intellect, then only you will be able to pursue jnana and bhakti. So at this point in time, this is your eligibility. And then God continues, while you are performing your action, while you are performing your duties, beware. Don't let the mind intellect stray to the thought of what? The result of what will happen. Because again, ma kadachana faleshu, ma faleshu kadachana, or ma not, kadachana at any point in time, faleshu, in the fruits or results or outcome. So your right is not in the fruits or result or outcome at any point in time when you are performing the action. So for example, again, going back to my army days, when we did this commando course, commando is like the counterpart to the American Green Berets. Okay, when we did this commando course, used to be one of the toughest thing there was this route march, 60 kilometers, carrying a weight of 30 kilograms. Okay, and if you have to clear and if you have to pass, there has to be a slight jog. You can't walk. If you're walking for more than say 10% of the entire 60 kilometers, then you'll fail. So you probably can walk for about 2 or 3% or 5% of the entire route. Beyond that, if you walk, you're done for. You'll fail. So you're 60 kilometers, 30 kg weight, pack with a rifle and all of that, and you're going. And you have to finish it, because if you don't finish it, you will get relegated. Relegated means you return to the unit. It's called RTU. Return to the unit means you have to come back again. It's a compulsory course, especially if you're in the infantry. Okay, and which means you have to do all the other. So this is one of the most difficult. There are a lot of other difficult things that a commando has to do. So who wants to go back and come back again? Nobody wants to go back, right? So you do it. You do it either for the fear of not getting RTU, or you do it for the sake of doing it. Okay. And the beauty of this, is most of us, when we talk to each other, what we experience is, yes, it is inconvenient. After 10 or 12 kilometers, the pack weight is bothering you. And after some time, it's cutting into your back. You can feel a dampness because it's cut into your skin. Okay. And it is painful, a little bit irritating. And then you want to stop. At some point in time, you say, what, forget this. This is not worth it. I'm going to let them send me. Forget about unit. I'll return to home. And I'm not coming back ever. Okay, that's the thought that comes. Every person gets this thought. Okay, but there's something in you that keeps going. You keep going. You keep going. And after some time, it's almost like a jet aircraft crossing the sound barrier. When the jet aircraft crosses the sound barrier, it's a big threshold. Okay, like that, you reach a threshold, maybe around half the distance, about 25-30 kilometers into it, you reach a threshold, after which you don't even realize what's going on. You're deep into it. You realize only after you're done and you cross that finish line, you say, oh my God, I was the last 30 kilometers I was actually walking or running or whatever. Nothing is known. It is floating. You are deep into some zone, like maybe the zone that I talked about, the Ayrton Senna example that I gave. You get into that cockpit and you are in some other zone. So it's a real experience. So how do we get into that zone? I'm sure marathon runners will relate to this, okay? Because at some point in time in the run, your body says, forget it, enough is enough. And that is why they invented, 10K. So that people who say enough is enough can do 10K. But the guy who sticks to that 42 kilometers, the girl who sticks to that 42 kilometers has completed. And if you leave at 40 kilometers, then what? Around the bend, half a kilometer around the bend or 2 kilometers around the bend is the tape. And you leave at 40, what happens then? You have to strive till the very end. You have to keep striving, keep doing, keep doing. You don't know when you will finish. You don't know when the fruits will come. Just keep going. Ma karma phala heturbu. Let not the fruit or the act of your action, let not the result of your action be your motive. Just do for the sake of doing. So it's like a boat that floats in water, but the water is not allowed to get inside the boat. Similarly, human beings live in this world, but the desires of the world are not allowed to take possession of the human being. Not allowed meaning, if you take that woe that I talked about, if you take that woe, then Nitya Sattvastaha, when you adopt that attitude of Nitya Sattvastaha, then the desires will not take possession. If desires take possession, as much as a boat that has been filled with water will sink in the water itself, the individual who has been possessed by desire will sink in the world itself. And then it becomes a continuous, up and down of the world. The giant wheel syndrome. And what happens if the fruits of action are not your motive? Then that's where Bhagavan comes to next. So let's say we are doing action selflessly. We have adopted that. There is a risk. Okay, and that risk is that people who are doing selfless action could get disinterested in what they are doing. Mate sangotsva karmani. So not for you is the fruits of action, but when the fruits of action is not for you, sangotsva karmani. Sangotsva, sanga astu karmani. Sanga means attachment. Astu means let there be. Karmani in inaction. There is a risk that people who are working selflessly start thinking, what am I doing this for? Why should I do this? What is it going to happen? And then you will kind of be inactive. And you'll stop doing the action. You'll do it slower. There will be inclination towards not doing it. And Bhagavan says, do not develop that. He warns us. Okay, he says, beware, don't do this. The mind and intellect that is selfish, that has a rigor, like I just said a little earlier. That has this rigor to act. It is focused very much on the action because it needs that result. It needs its desires of the fruit. But a mind, but when that happens, the result, whatever the mind gets expended in pleasures. It does not go towards purification of the mind. It is spent away. It is like keeping money in the bank and it's growing or spending it off. So this punya gets spent. It doesn't add. And it does not help in purity. It doesn't add to the purity of the mind. However, a mind intellect which is unselfish, which is working without any selfish desire, the risk is that it shies away from action. It must have the rigor to act. If it does not have the rigor to act, then you will see it. And how will you see it? Because the action will be either not there or it will be imperfect. So such a mind which is not acting is actually not a selfless mind. It is a lazy mind. It is a tamasic mind. That is a tamasic attitude. So how do you distinguish whether a person is actually tamasic or selfless? By the level of degree of perfection in what the person is doing. Perfection is the hallmark of Karma Yoga. Because when you do Karma Yoga for the sake of yoga, for the sake of work, you leave your thumb impression. The thumb impression is the identity. And when I tell my engineers, when you do coding, leave your thumb impression. Because if you leave your thumb impression in your code, you don't need a quality analyst to check it. You need a QA to check it only if your code is not perfect. But if your code is perfect, if you have left your thumb impression, then even if somebody checks it, they will not be able to find any flaws in it. So perfection is the hallmark of Karma Yoga. And perfection in action indicates whether the mind intellect is lazy or tamasic, or it has rigor and is working selflessly. Akarmani also means imperfect action, which is, in addition to inaction, it also means imperfect action. So there was this course in which Gurudev, he, the outcome of the course normally when, people are given their certificates, there is some kind of a test, a Viva voice of what you have read and so on and so forth. There was no such test, there was no such Viva voice. Each person was asked to address envelopes, stamp them and submit it to the administrative office. Okay. And when the envelopes and stamped envelope were received, all Gurudev did was looked at how the address was written, how the name was written, was the spelling right, is the handwriting good or not, was the stamp straight, put in the nice place in a proper manner, was it twisted, was it pasted wherever. So the test was what? The test was what is the perfection in this simple action of writing names in an envelope, addresses and stamping it. And all those where the handwriting was not clear, there were spelling mistakes, stamps were twisted, they were failed in the course. So if someone could not do a simple action perfectly, what had that person learned in the course? Nothing. So that was the measure of success. So perfection is not driven by desire. Perfection is driven by worship. When you have the sense of worship, when you have the Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, then perfection comes into action. And when does the result of action manifest? The result, does it manifest before the action? Does it manifest during the action? It manifests after the action, right? The result comes in, it manifests, we see it only after the action is done. So when I am facing my challenges in the present while I am performing my action, I start thinking and my mental faculties are deployed into something that is not there. It's gonna come later. It's not there now. It's somewhere in the future. Then what would happen? So right now I'm performing action, but my mind and mental faculties are deployed in the result. Then it is going to get unnecessarily or uselessly anxious. And when it gets uselessly anxious, the performance of my current action will not be excellent. It will not have the beauty. So when I'm writing an exam, if I'm going to be thinking about how much marks am I going to get, that's going to impact. I'll probably do 1 or 2 questions less than I would have. I may not have the time to attempt it because I wasted my time, the time that I should have used to attempt the question, I wasted thinking about what am I going to achieve in this examination. So work fundamentally has 2 stages, as we all know. The first stage is planning. Okay, when you are planning, you're collecting data, you are looking at what is the approach that you will take, what are the past experiences, somebody else has done a similar kind of work, gather those kind of information, what will be the various milestones, so on and so forth. The planning phase. The execution phase. The execution phase happens inside the field of action, inside the playground of work. And once you get into the execution phase, into the playground of work, after that, you should not be planning. Planning is a completely different phase. This is what Bhagavan is trying to tell us through this verse.